Can't stop, won't stop, get guap. 10 white toes and them toy flip-flops. Manicures and pedicures, I'm always tip-top. When they say I'm not hot, all these lies need to stop.
What's up guys, it's me. I'm back for another video. So a lot of people have asked me to do a video on like the whole Canada application process for university. So yeah, a lot of people asked me to do a video like this because there's not many videos on the internet about Canada and applying to Canada and dorm tours in Canada. And actually I was looking at my like analytics, and the way that most people found my like university videos by searching Canada stuff, so I thought it would be a really good idea to do a video like this. And also because the last university video got a lot of views, and it was like honestly the one that was most fun for me to make because I love talking about university. I just love everything about the system, and like it's just so interesting to me, and I feel like I did well in it, so I think I could share my insight with you guys. I had some great counselors, my parents helped me out a lot, so I feel like I can help a lot of other people out with their whole application process the way I would want to be helped out. So in this video, I'm just going to talk about the schools that I applied to and basically like what I needed to do for them, because a lot of the Canadian schools like did it differently than the US schools, and they did it differently to each other as well. So basically I applied to 6 schools in Canada. Also, I hope you like this new setup, and yeah. So I applied to 6 schools in Canada, ranging from McGill, U of Toronto, UBC, Queen's, Western, and Waterloo, and I have my laptop down here with all the info on it so I can share. I don't think this video is going to be that long because honestly there's not that much to say about these universities because I don't really ask for much. But yeah, I'll just get straight into it. So I'll start with the school I'm actually going to, U of Toronto. So for Toronto, you only needed, also I've been saying Toronto this whole time, and someone taught me you should say Toronto, so I'm going to try and call it Toronto from now on. But yeah, U of Toronto, they didn't ask for any essays, they didn't ask for any like extracurriculars, it was just submit your transcripts and you're done. So there was no essays needed, I just submitted my grades, and that's why I honestly didn't think I was going to get into U of Toronto, because my grades aren't that great. Like they're pretty average for like as far as IB grades go, and U of Toronto's a pretty good school, it's like 28 in the world, so I really didn't expect to get in, so that was like a huge shock to me. And they had a really early deadline, which was November 1st. And me and my parents are getting really, or my parents and I were getting really scared because we heard that they release their decisions pretty early and they only give you 2 weeks to decide. So we were thinking like if they give it to us by like January and then we've just submitted all the other applications and we wouldn't have time to choose. So it's either we have to accept Toronto or nothing. But they actually only, when I got my decision, it was May 1st, so it was all fine, don't worry about that. So yeah, the deadline was November 1st. I think that was for early, or it could have been normal, but anyway, I would advise that you apply as early as possible because first of all, it just gets it out of the way quicker, because during that time, from around basically the start of summer until Christmas break, you should be doing all your university app stuff, starting it. So I would recommend applying as early as possible because first of all, I don't know how it looks to the universities. I don't know if they can if they prefer students who apply early, but I would think that if you applied early, it would make you stand out among the candidates. And also it just gets it out of the way quicker so you can focus on studying for your mock exams and your final exams. So they had a November 1st deadline, so I met that. I think I submitted it like in October. And I would also recommend if you have like half-term break or any break like in October, spend that entire time doing your uni apps, because if once you get into the zone of doing them all, it really helps you. So yeah, Toronto, it didn't require any essay, didn't require any extracurriculars to be inputted, just your grades. So I'll actually insert a comment right here. I'll blur out the name just in case, but someone just asked a question and people were replying to it. But they said that they applied in like 2003 and 2007 or something. So I think a lot of things have changed since then. People, or like universities have become more, they ask more for like your extracurriculars and stuff you've done like volunteer wise to help your application and whatever. So yeah, I just want to address those comments as well, just like make sure everything's all good in the hood. So the next part is UBC. UBC is one of the few schools that actually required essays. It was one of 2 that required essays out of all the Canadian schools. Also, there's lightning outside but no rain and no thunder, so I'm thoroughly confused right now. I might thunder soon, but we'll see. Anyway, so from what my knowledge of UBC was, they would give you around 4 questions that you had to answer. Like they had a set 8 or whatever, and they would give you 4 to answer. Not everyone's is the same. They'll give you all different questions based on like what they think, I don't know, or what you've applied for. They'll give you different questions. So I'm just going to read out the 4 that I got. I'm going to do a video straight after this reading out the essays for schools like UBC. A lot of them, what I did is, if the questions were kind of similar, the questions are usually about family, education, like what you've done to help the world. They're all centered around that kind of thing, like activities you've done, because they just want to know more about you as a person. So I kind of like reused some of my essays, so if the questions kind of like sounded the same, I would use one essay and then change it to fit the other question, so I didn't have to write that many essays. So yeah, now I'll just read out my four UBC questions and put them up on the screen as I read them. So the first one is, tell us about who you are. How would your family, friends, and or members of your community describe you? If possible, please include something about yourself that you are most proud of, and why. And maximum 250 words. And 250 words really isn't a lot. Like, it's not a lot at all. You should just briefly talk about it. So for what I did, I'll read this out later, but I think I talked about how my mom would describe me, how my teachers would describe me, and how someone else would describe me. So I did 3 of them like that, and I thought that was kind of smart. Honestly, UBC was the application that I was the least proud of. Like, I didn't like my essays, but I couldn't think of how to change them. And like, usually when you rework an essay too much, it gets worse and worse and worse, so I just went with it. I didn't think it was that bad, but it wasn't. It was like the one that I was least proud of, so I'm still surprised that I got in. The second one is really short and sweet. It's what is important to you and why. Also maximum 250 words. This leaves you basically with questions like this, what is important to you and why. They're really just giving you a space to talk about yourself, so you can interpret the question however you want. You don't have to like focus on the exact words they use and try and answer it exactly. You can go as broad as you like or as narrow as you like. It's all up to you. The third one wasn't really a question. It just says, describe up to 5 activities that you have pursued or accomplishment achieved in one or more of the following areas. Please outline the nature of your responsibilities within these activities, 50 words per description. And then they gave a list of about 7 or 8 things that you could talk about. So one of them was clubs, family or community responsibilities, creative or performing arts, work or employment, athletics, volunteer, service to others. So that's basically just asking you to describe your extracurriculars in like 50 words per thing and up to 5. So that's why I would say that some of the Canadian universities really do care about your extracurriculars. They want to know what you're doing outside of school to make you a more well-rounded student. So for that one, I'm pretty sure I just listed out what I've done, described it, and I was all good with that. And then the third one was, tell us more about 1 or 2 activities listed above that are most important to you, and please explain the role that you played and what you learned in the process. You will be asked for a reference you can speak to your response, maximum of 350 words. So I think for them that was the most important one because it was 350 words, and also be asked for 1 or 2 activities. So what I talked about here and what I talked about in a lot of my essays, something that I'm really proud of, is my CAS projects. If you don't know, in the IB you have to do a project for CAS where it has to fill either creativity, activity, and service. Creativity is just like creativity, more lightning. Activity is like sports, and then service is service. So, well, most kids in my school, they did like a football club, or they had a club for like you have to sustain it for 1 month. There's a thunder. So what I did instead of like boring ass clubs is, if you don't know, I like sew my own clothes. I really like sewing. So what I did is I collected donations of like shirts, old fabric, anything that people could find like fairly clean fabric. And they just donated it to us, and our neighbor actually donated a bunch of shirts that didn't fit him anymore. So we made those, me and my sister, we made those into dresses for children in India, and we had a whole thing where our mom flew out, she gave it to the kids in India, and it was like a really wholesome process. And so we used like recycled materials, used our skills for good, so I felt like that was a really good thing to talk about, and it fit into like my school and my volunteering. So that's the one thing I think that helped my application quite a lot, because it wasn't like volunteerism, it was like things that actually needed to happen, personal experience, like my heritage and everything. So yeah, for that, like that's one thing I think Canadian schools kind of care about, is like what you can do to help the world. There was also an optional one saying if you have any additional information, you can use the space below to provide whatever. I'll put it up on the screen. That's like maximum 100 words. I think I did use that because a couple of the schools, Nina and I had kind of similar applications, so we wanted to like let the schools know that we were twins and that we've gone through basically the same things, like our lives have been basically the same. So things we talk about are going to be pretty similar, but like just know that we're twins and like whatever. So I think when it's like an optional slot for additional information, Nina and I talked about that. And then it also asks you to submit like references. So for UBC, I did get accepted. I think I got my offer on February 14th. Because I remember I was going on the Reddit threads and they were all like, oh, if you didn't get your offer by February 14th, there's like a lower chance you'll get in, because that's like their first wave of like the good applicants. And I was like, fuck, I was like shitting myself because I didn't think I was going to get in, because it was like Feb 15th and I still hadn't got my offer. Or it was like 13th or something, but it was like the 13th in Canada. I don't know, it didn't make any sense, but like I got my offer by like the first wave, so I was really happy. Okay, the next one is McGill. There's nothing much to say here. Honestly, it was kind of a last minute decision to apply because my mom was like, oh, I went there, I think you'll really enjoy it. So we just applied. It literally took like less than an hour. I just sat down with my mom at her computer, submitted my transcripts, and that's it. But I still got rejected, which is fine. Okay, the next one was Queen's. They require only your grades, but they have a personal statement of experience, which is optional but recommended. And a PSA right here. If a school says recommended, it means required. If it says recommended, they want you to do it so bad. They just want to see like which students are actually intuitive enough to know that recommended means required. So if you see recommended, just do it anyway. So I'll put a link in the description to the personal statement of experience that Queen's asked for, but I'll just read out some things that they asked for. They basically, you should write it out on a document first. All your essays, write them out on documents first, and then you can copy and paste them, check them so many times, make sure they're perfect before you send them. But also keep in mind that like, even if they're not perfect, the more you rework them, the worse they get. So just at some point you have to leave it be. But basically, Queen's gave you like a template, or you can find a template online for their personal statement of experience, just like basically things you should talk about. So it says, list any award or distinction that you've earned in the last 4 years. And that's basically just a list, and briefly explain each one. And it's 200 characters, different to words. That's like 200 letters basically. So basically for Queen's, you write it out on like a document by yourself, and then when you actually go to the application, they have like slots that you can fill it in, but it's good to have it all in document first, and then you can just like look at your document and copy it out basically. The second thing they recommended was to identify any extracurricular activities and total number of hours you devoted to each one. So they care about your extracurriculars, like they care about what you do outside of school. And it says also list any full-time or part-time unpaid employment that you've had in the last 4 years. So what's important to note about that is even if you haven't worked, like I didn't work much at all. I think I worked like a week maximum. They just want to know because, and you shouldn't feel bad if you haven't done any work or like, you know, like outside of school, like work for money, because they just want to see, like, for example, if your parents couldn't support you and you had if you had like an after school job or a night job or something, they just want to know that so that they can like see that you were working hard at school and you were working at this, or this might be the reason why your grades were a little bit lower, you didn't have enough time for that. They just want to see, basically, they want to see a whole outlook on your life, and like they just want to know more about you. So they asked for that. And they also said they asked for an essay to choose one extracurricular activity or employment opportunity, and in 300 words or fewer, describe the impact of this experience and the greatest learning outcome for you. Again, 300 words, they just want to know more about you. And then like a verifier and everything. So yeah, that was Queen's. I think Queen's was like one of the Canadian applications that took the most work. Queen's and UBC were the ones that took the most work. And I also got accepted to Queen's. The next one is Western. Western and Waterloo both just asked for grades, and I got accepted into both of them. So, I mean, that should be fairly straightforward. Just go to their website, click apply, do all the stuff that they ask, and you should be good. So that's all for like the universities, like the individual ones that I applied to. It might be different for some others like UVic or whatever, but I didn't apply to those. So now I'm just going to go into the OUAC application. If you don't know what that is, I'll put up what it stands for on the screen here, like Ontario something, but it's basically for all the universities in Ontario. It's a common app for them. You submit an application through the OUAC that's kind of like broad, and you can just like, it's kind of like UCAS if you know what that is. I'm not really sure though. And then those individual schools usually get back to you. So if you put in like Queen's and U of Toronto and Western, say, those schools will get they get the message that you've applied to them, and then they'll send you an email with like further instructions, like you need to submit this essay or put this on your OUAC or whatever. So it's like a general portal for everything like that. So yeah, that's basically everything that I want to talk about the Canada application. If you have any questions, I'll be replying to all the comments, so just put them in the description, put them in the comments, or you can message me on Instagram if you don't want to comment. So it's at neha.hk, and if you just say hey, I probably won't reply because there's a lot of like creepy people in my DMs being like hey. So just like say you came from the video or comment, I don't know. Get in touch if you need more like help, because I know a lot about like the whole system. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you guys can do it, that would be amazing. And bye!